The 188th edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been. There ever will be.
Nate Humphrey hands King Rice the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot. Down off the glass. Oklahoma calls timeout. But the game is over. The game is over. Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma. Been ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered by Vinny.
With 20 seconds left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63, 62, 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Brent Brown looking. Throw away to Worthy. 35. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship. Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short rebound. It's over. Carolina has won the national championship. And how about the Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
The Tar Heels are the national dadgum champions.
And that's what it takes when you big time games. You've got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. Josh and Anthony back with you to break down Carolina's disappointing 72-70 loss last night up at Syracuse, and in combination with that conversation, have a more in-depth talk about Carolina's NCAA tournament standing as of today, because right now they're still in the tournament, but they're not as solidly in the field as I think we wanted them to be, and of course as they would like to be. But before we get to that, we got to talk about last night, and you know, I think Roy Williams, I think he was pretty right. You know, they said all during the broadcast he was, quote, terrified about which team was going to show up. And I think his reasons for his for being terrified were brought to light in last night's 72-70 loss to Syracuse. You got to give credit to the Orange. They made plays. Carolina didn't. But a lot of this loss was a lot like a lot of other Carolina's losses this year, where Carolina, in more ways than one, beat themselves. You started out the game with an 18-3 rebounding margin, which means you were getting stops, and you weren't able to build a more significant lead than 11-2. And I think that was really damning for this team because their defense came out and they were in sync, they were communicating, they were switching, and they were forcing Syracuse to take and make or take bad shots, which of course they were results in misses, which Carolina were rebounding and getting up and down the floor. But on the other end, Carolina's offense just looked the way it has all year long, especially on the road, which was was out of sync, not in rhythm. And so Syracuse was just able to keep themselves around the game in the first half. Buddy Boeheim gets hot in the final 2 to 3 minutes of the first half. They end the first half on a 13-3 run to cut was an 8-point deficit and lead by 6 at the break. And it was a real frustrating night. But it was a lot like what you kind of expected because you had the big win on Saturday. A lot of emotions came out of that win, a come-from-behind win at home. Roy Williams gets that 900th win. And then his team comes out and they lay a dud at Syracuse. So just your initial thoughts on last night's defeat.
Yeah, I don't want to play Monday games anymore.
I told you it's why I hate Saturday, Monday turnaround.
Yeah, I thought this was one that would possibly favor them a little bit, to be really honest. But it didn't. It actually ended up pretty much hurting them playing this game on Monday. I think what was most frustrating about this game was that at halftime, even with the run late in the first half, that was the first game of the season against them all over again. Started hot, Boeheim gets hot at the end of the half, and they go in with a lead. So you're saying, okay, well, we've been here before. We know what we have to do in the second half. We are killing them on the glass, primarily the offensive glass, which that margin stayed throughout the entire game. but you couldn't make enough plays to win this game. And I think that this game, as much as some of the other games, like Marquette, some people were saying, oh, that game showed that they were young. I don't think so. I think this game shows that they're young. I think the game earlier in the season against Georgia Tech shows that they are young. They had a chance to win the game. They, had clawed themselves back into it. I mean, look, they had no business being in the game in the final couple minutes of the game. The way that they played early on in that second half that allowed Syracuse to get a 10-point lead. Of course, Carolina would cut into it. Syracuse would extend it back out. It was back and forth like that. But down the stretch, you were saying, okay, well, this game is a 10-point game. How is Carolina going to find a way to get themselves back in it? They're probably not. They did, though, and they had a chance late, but they just couldn't make the plays when they had to make the plays. And mainly the thing is that they weren't able to make the shots. We saw Kerwin Walton. He was just so successful for the middle part of this season. But as we've gotten later into the year, he started to struggle. And here's the main thing that I want people to understand about this. That's okay. Kerwin Walton was not supposed to be the guy that was going to come in and light the world on fire. He, was able to do that for you at a point during, the season. But now the thing that really sucks for him is that expectations have gone through the roof for him. And now, when he starts to struggle a little bit, when he has some of those freshman struggles, some of those struggles we knew he was going to have when he came to Carolina because, well, he's a freshman, and let's be honest, he was not a highly rated freshman. People are starting to say, why can't this kid get the job done? Well, guess what? He wasn't – this was – way above what we expected from him in the first place. There's a lot on his plate, and I think people should be more concerned with the fact that nobody has been able to consistently pick up any sort of outside shooting around him. He is your only guy. So in a game like this where you needed threes to be able to win, like we talked about in the preview, when he doesn't have a good game, you sink.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from because his shooting hasn't been as great as it has been the last couple games. He's too good of a shooter to go 0-7 from 3 with the looks he was given last night. Florida State, Marquette, they did a really good job running him off the three-point line. Syracuse did not. He got a lot of good looks where he was able to set his feet, maybe take that little sidestep to the dribble, which puts him in his shooting rhythm, and he wasn't able to make it.
Okay, but how many shots have we seen like that from Caleb Love and R.J. Davis that they haven't been able to knock down?
Oh, plenty, but
they are more highly touted than him. That's my concern with people saying that. My bigger problem when it comes to Kerwin
is, and I said this Saturday during the Florida State game, is he now looks hesitant, and he's not just letting it fly.
Well, that's part of it.
You're a good enough shooter to catch it and shoot it, and we'll live with the result. Don't think about the shot. Take the shot.
But, I mean, look, I understand what you're saying. That definitely makes sense. But we know that guys go through this. Every shooter goes through this, especially when you're a freshman in college and you're playing above what you were expecting.
And I think people are going to complain that he shot 7 threes. He's never going to come out of this if he quits shooting the ball. You don't come out of a shooting slump if you quit shooting. It's like a hitter who can't hit in baseball. You still got to go up to the bat and swing the plate.
And this is his game. I mean, look here. If you think that Kerwin Walton's going to become a guy that's going to drive the basket and finish at the rim, then I don't know how to help you. His game is going to be shooting the 3 ball. And he's a shooter.
He's good enough where he can shoot 40% from 3 off for a season or consistently enough during a season. I just want to see him quit thinking and just play because I don't mind him shooting the 3 ball. He's the one guy that I'm not going to get mad at if it's a quality look.
Yeah, he's the one guy you don't scream no when he throws the shot.
I don't mind him shooting the 3. Last night's frustration was that he wasn't taken off the 3-point line. He just couldn't make them. And that's where it gets frustrating. But no one on the team could make them. They were 4 of 20 from 3. Caleb Love was 2 of 5 from 3, so that's really improvement over from him. But then you get R.J. Davis and Andrew Platek combined to make the 2 3-pointers. And look, Carolina, if you want to shoot 23s a night, that's okay. But you better be able to make at least 7 or 8 of them because 4 ain't going to get it done. And I think, the making the plays last night, Carolina just didn't make shots last night. I thought defensively They had their lapses as they've had all year long, but you still only gave up 72 points. You still only gave up 41% shooting from the field and only 30% from three. Those are numbers that you should be able to win with, especially when you factor in the fact that you out-rebounded them 53-33. They had 33 total rebounds. Carolina alone had 26 offensive rebounds and lost. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. And we've looked at the stat sheet the last two games against Marquette, and the stat sheet would have told you Carolina should have won the game, and they got beat. You look at the stat sheet against Florida State. The stat sheet should have told you Florida State wins the game, but Carolina won. Last night's stat sheet, when you look at the rebounding numbers, you would think the rebounding would be enough to push you to a victory, and Carolina should have won the ball game. They did not.
So you're telling me that this team is unpredictable. Stop.
Right. And then you factor in the fact they go 14 of 22 from the free throw line. One game after going 27 of 30 and making 18 in a row to finish the game. It's not hard to see why this team got beat. To factor in all the trouble shooting the ball, 20 more turnovers. They've committed 59 turnovers in their last 60 in their last three games. Yeah, yep. 60 turnovers in their last three games.
I mean, we talked about this coming into this game. What were the two things that we said you had to have in this game to be able to win besides good big man play? Take care of the basketball, knock down shots. They didn't do either of those. What did they do in the first game? They didn't knock down a ton of outside shots, but they hit some mid-range shots that really helped them. And the biggest thing that they did in that game was take care of the basketball. They didn't do it in this game, and that's a problem that's repeatedly shown up with this team. Now, I'm really hoping that that's just a youth issue and that's something that they can get figured out. Somebody pointed out a really good, something that I thought was a really good point. Of the 20 turnovers last night, 12 of them were committed by big men. I think that our guards get a lot of the slack when it comes to the turnover issues. And sometimes it's rightfully so. We've seen moments where Caleb Love has had lapses, same thing with RJ Davis. But you've also had some problems from your big guys trying to make the big-time play, the big-time pass, when they can, there are easier passes that they can make, and it's putting you in bad positions. I think that's something that people have to take notice of, and I'm really hoping that that's something that they work on in the offseason. I think that a lot of people are concerned about the three-point shooting and the free throw shooting. I think the biggest thing when it comes to this team winning games, as we've seen really over the last 2 years, if you can't take care of the basketball, you're not going to win these games. No matter how good you shoot, no matter how good you shoot from the free throw line, it does not matter. Even in this game, plus 20 on the glass didn't matter because you couldn't take care of the ball.
Right. I mean, Garrison Brooks, 4 turnovers last night. Armando Bacot, 3 turnovers last night. Then Kessler and Sharp had 2 and 3 respectively. I don't think we're upset with the turnovers that Kessler and Sharp committed because they're freshmen. You expect them to make bad plays. Garrison Brooks committing 4 turnovers in a game that suits his skill set the best. You're playing his own defense. He was a big reason why Carolina beat Syracuse back in January. That's frustrating. And another guy that really didn't show up last night that we were kind of counting on to be a big part of last night's game was Leaky Black. Only 6 points. He decided to take a three-pointer for some ungodly reason. 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Wasn't the kind of defensive player he was in the first game, especially on Buddy Boeheim. But there was a play in that game where I believe it was either Griffin or Guerrier who got the ball, drove the ball the whole length of the court on Leaky Black, scored, and literally the whole time he's running up the court just jawing at Leaky. And Leaky is unaffected by that. That's a competitive issue. Because if I got punked on national television like Leaky Black did repeatedly last night, at some point the fire would have burned inside me to go play a little bit harder, play a little bit smarter. And I think that's where I've gotten my frustration level with the veterans on this team, is that Leaky Black, Garrison Brooks, and Andrew Platek, they lack a competitive fire that the freshmen don't have. The freshmen make mistakes, but I'm willing to go to war with those guys for 40 minutes because I know they're going to give me effort, and they're going to try, and they care. I don't know if Garrison Brooks cares that Carolina is 15-9, 9-6 overall.